Steve, what's up, man? Welcome to the SABM podcast.
Hey Scott, I really appreciate you having me on here. And first off, thank you for having me, and thank you all for listening. And I'm new to the 10X Vets, the SABN community, and I've gone to the SABN meetings, and I just joined 10X Vets, and I went to their Tampa retreat. It was far better than I expected it to be. No offense, man, right? No offense.
You
But
didn't have a high expectation,
I,
is that what you're
I didn't
saying?
know what I was getting into. I was like, is this what's going to happen? And I was like, well, I'm going to be in Tampa anyway. Okay. But it exceeded expectations. I thought it's a fantastic group of very smart, very serious, but then hilarious people. It's like it was ideal. A great group. You've assembled a wonderful set of people.
Yeah, well, thanks for being a part of it. I do remember the morning, that Tuesday morning when we kicked off. I remember seeing you on Zoom calls and that sort of thing. It's different when you see somebody in person. Like you don't know how tall they are on Zoom or whatever. So,
Right.
anyways,
It's
like
weird
we're
because I'm over 7 feet tall. I'm gigantic.
and I was like, man, who's that guy over there by the window drinking the Coke? And I didn't know if you were like registered for the event, if you were a 10X Vets member, if you were just
Yeah,
somebody random like from the Tampa club that like
some
trickled their
random
way in.
dude.
And I was like, hey, Felipe, go see who that is. But sitting all by themselves.
Some random dude. Yeah, everybody's networking, and I was like, well, I'm just gonna have my soda. Yeah.
But I was like, oh, Steve. And then, anyways, I'm glad you were able to attend, and I'm glad you had a fun time. Those are always a lot of
Yeah.
fun. But
Yeah, and that closed group that you got to hear one of my stories too, right? It's
yeah.
like that's the wonderful thing about military is we're a very story culture. Uh,
Well, you made a lot of people laugh, that's for
yeah,
sure.
that worked out. Yeah, cool.
And today we're here to talk about TDY Rentals. And,
Yeah,
TDY is a lot of people listening are know what that stands for. So
that's right.
excited for you to share, what led you to, first of all, who you are, kind of, your a little
Okay,
bit about your military background and
okay,
then, what TDY Rentals is and why you started it.
sure, sure. I'm Steve Buchanan. I'm the founder of TDY Rentals, which stands for temporary duty. Which did you know what in the corporate housing industry they thought it stood for temporary duty year? Like, no, dude,
Oh,
no. Anyway, I played soccer in high school, did all the Super America stuff, student council president and everything. I'm from Lake Forest, Illinois, just north of Chicago. And then at West Point, I was on the Glee Club and I was president of the mountaineering team. I was gonna go play soccer somewhere. I got like recruited to play D1, but then wow,
oh,
rock
wow.
climbing is where it's at. So I spent far too much of my time that I should have been studying out on the rocks around there. And then after that, I was a math major, kind of dorky, I suppose. And then I went on to become an infantry officer. I was at Fort Lewis. That's where I started my career. And then, as the war ramped up, I got to go to Qatar and Kuwait, a little bit in Iraq. Came back, became a captain, went back to Baghdad as a strategic planner. Um, and then I got divorced. So I was gonna go be an astronaut. That's where I
Oh,
wanted to go. Yeah.
okay.
I was yeah, I was they were gonna send me to, get my advanced math degree and go teach math at West Point and then hopefully follow that thin career path that could lead to the Army astronaut program. But instead I got divorced. So
Hmm.
I got divorced and I had 2 kids. So I opted. It's a real choice, right? You get divorced and your kids have to live where the divorce happens. So I decided to get out of the military and be a present father instead of following that other career path. Um, And I got out of the military and I became an investment banker at precisely the wrong time, which is the end of 2007.
Hmm. Oh yeah.
And all the big deals that I had lined up suddenly just disappeared. So I switched over to oil and gas consulting in Canada. Um, and that's kind of interesting, right? Meeting with the roughnecks and the guys on the rigs, and then you can gain immediate trust because they look at you like, hey, who's this little kid, this bratty little guy? And your goal is to find out what's going on, what's wrong with their organization, and then they're like, what have you ever done? You ever been with oil? I was like, well, when I was in Iraq a few months ago, I saw plenty of it. And they're like, oh, okay. And then
It's a street credit.
yeah, yeah. And then you take that information, make a PowerPoint, present it to the executives. And then I joined PSYOP reserves, and I went to Afghanistan and came back from that. And uh, well, to be completely honest, it was my divorce was the reason I went to law school. My divorce was, as everybody knows, it's a horrible time, and I was up against a person with limitless assets, and I could not afford the legal help I needed.
Hmm.
Uh, so I was like, well, I'll just go learn it myself. So I went and got a JD MBA from University of Washington, and every paid a lot of attention to the classes that were about uh, divorce and contract
Family law.
law and all, yeah, all of those things. Never wanted to be a lawyer. No offense to the lawyers in the organization or that are listening, but I just that was not me. I was a math guy. But by the end of law school, I basically had full custody of the kids, and it was a whole new world for me then. Business school was just fun. I enjoyed every part of that. Law school was painful. There was a lot of reading, not what I, not my forte at the time. Um, but then once I had kind of, when you have like a really hard thing going on in your life, it's almost like a percentage of your brain is dedicated towards that. And then once that was gone and I had emotional clarity and mental clarity, I that's when I did my first startup, which was Choose Vets. It
Hmm.
was basically a labor brokerage platform, kind of similar to what now is TaskRabbit, but it was for hire military veterans.
Hmm.
And we raised a bunch of capital, got invited to the State of the Union. We did a bunch of good, but then got outperformed by Porch, Home Advisor, things like that. So then I knew how to run companies. So I was a COO of a bunch of progressively larger companies. And then what happened was I got mobilized on TDY to Tampa for CENTCOM PSYOP for 365 days. And
All right.
this is when the foundation happens, right? So I was down there on TDY, and nobody really knew all the rules around TDY. I was a lawyer. I figured I could figure it out. But I let everybody else. They all got their spots, right? And this is a story of just like you don't under. We think we know what TDY is, but we don't. Um, so some people would go. One guy rented a place, and they charged him his full TDY, but would rent that place out to someone else for less money. They were actively discriminating against military based on their job because they
Hmm.
could. And that's commonplace within the industry, unfortunately. And then somebody else got a place, and there were unreimbursable expenses, right? So if you're on TDY and you try to use an Airbnb, Airbnb will itemize certain expenses that are not reimbursable. So they ended up paying out of pocket for
Hmm.
things like background checks or move-in fees, pet fees, things like that. So didn't want to have to pay out of pocket, didn't like being discriminated against. And then other folks, they'd rent a place and they'd rent furniture. So you had your lodging receipt, you had your utilities receipt, and then you had this rental furniture receipt. And that's tough to get three of them to line up with TDY, which is a day TDY is a subset of the IRS business travel regulations. It is a use or lose daily entitlement, unlike meals and incidentals, which you just get, no receipts required. Lodging, you can spend up to a certain amount every day. Now, the complexity of that comes that there's a different number of days per month, and there's seasonality, particularly in Tampa, where there are 2 to 3 months out of the year where it goes up by 20 to 30%. Rent does not function that way. Rent is a monthly reimbursement. Utilities monthly, furniture rental monthly. So the guys they were often losing out. They had unused entitlement. So that's a problem too. So, and then I looked at the furniture rental industry in itself, and I did the math behind it. And rented furniture pays itself off in 3 to 4 months. To rent used stuff that you could
Mm.
have just bought, but you can't, because you can't buy something and be reimbursed for it when you're on TDY, because it's a business expense. The payer is actually the employer. And if the employer gave you the money to go buy something, well, then that would be salary and that would be
Mm.
taxed. Business travel, TDY, is non-taxable because it's a business expense to the government. So you can't buy it, even though it would make more sense to do that. Like, okay, why don't I just instead have my friend rent furniture to me? Because so I found a place, I negotiated a place, a gorgeous, wonderful 3 bedroom, 3 bathroom townhouse. I got this amazing thing at a yacht club, and I found it. Well, I negotiated them under per diem. I was like, yeah, I'm doing great. But I didn't even realize that I had more money to spend. So I had this
Mm.
excess money that was in this weird sort of graph. So basically, it took that whole thing there, and that became the furniture rental contract. And we simply bought furniture. I had my friend have a company, bought me furniture, rented it to me, and I picked out what that furniture was, and then it was like, la la. That's the foundation of the company. So TDY Rentals, 5 years later, is we serve the entirety of government. It's not just like DoD is only 25% of the TDY spend. And thanks to FOIA requests and a lot of research, we know that the United States government spends $2.3 billion annually on lodging, TDY lodging only, right? $2.3 billion. And that's long-term lodging, which we say is over 90 days. So that's a gigantic market size. And we serve everybody. Frankly, we have a lot of adoption in the Department of State and Department of Defense. And our newest customers are Coast Guard, which are technically Department of Homeland Security. Everybody does it. And we focus on TDY that's really over 30 days. And how it works is, say you have someone going like these folks that are all coming to Texas now. There's hundreds of them. They're all signing up faster than we can keep up with, but we can. Uh, they're on TDY for 1 year. So over the course of the year, they get about $48,000. There's seasonality involved. There's different number of days involved. And what we do is say, okay, $48,000. We will we find and broker unfurnished lodging for a year-long contract that meets all of the federal requirements, state and local requirements and the SCRA requirements. We make sure that utilities and Wi-Fi are included. And then, so say if you're looking at kind of a graph of this weird amount of TDY, that portion below, which is about 40 to 50%, up to 60% of that $48,000 is spent on the abode and the utilities. Everything above that is like a furniture rental contract, though it's all in one thing. So you take that excess on top. which in this case is, let's say, I don't know, 18 to $25,000. We take that amount, we divide it by three, and we say, here's a furniture budget for you. Pick whatever you want. We'll buy it. We'll make sure that it's in your unfurnished place when you arrive. And totally catered to you. Brand new mattress, because I'm kind of a mattress snob. Or uh, like the special operators, they want like a gym when they realize they're like, I don't need to get a couch, get a gym. Yeah, get a gym in your living room. Have it. The cyber guys, they want big gaming chairs and a giant monitor. They're like, we got it. We get them what they want, right? So they can really live their best TDY, because when someone is on TDY, they're doing something very important for the government. They've been selected individually to go on this thing, and the government is paying them above and beyond what they're normally paying under very tight regulations. So they're doing something important. So we want them to have the best TDY experience ever. So they get to pick their place. They pick their unfurnished or partially furnished place, and then they get to pick all the furniture. So
Hmm.
these guys down here, they pick their, depending on the size of their abode or how much they spend on the abode and utilities. They get about $5,000 to $6,000 of furniture. They pick it all out. It shows up for them. Wonderful. They pay, the government reimburses them. And then at the end of the tenancy, so we save money on the very beginning because we don't have to warehouse or showroom anything. It's all on demand. And it flows into our pop-up logistics warehouses. It flows right back out into their places. At the end of the tenancy, we liquidate the furniture. We liquidate the furniture for a quarter of the retail price, because frankly, that's what used furniture is worth. That's the market value for us. So everything that we bought for them and rented to them, we liquidate at the end on the open market. And most of the time, 81% of the time, that furniture is purchased by the tenant. They pay out of
Hmm.
pocket for that thing. So those that understand it, they will actually pick the furniture in the beginning that they know that they're going to want to buy at the end,
Okay. And
right?
they
So
get it
they
at a discount.
at a super discount, right? And I wish this had existed when we were lieutenants, uh, right? Because lieutenants they don't have any furniture, and I probably would have stayed in like a yurt. I would have stayed in this tiny little place and gotten all the furniture that I needed, and then at the end of it, buy it. And it's not rent to own. Very, very, very specific. It can't be rent to own or option to buy. Those are regulatory limitations. Because if it was rent to own, then the ownership portion of that furniture would technically be owned by the United States government.
Hmm.
So it's not bad. We liquidate it. We liquidate it on the open market and make it available to everyone. They just happen to be part of the people that buy it. So they know what's going to happen. They know and they buy it. So we've grown a lot. We now have there's 8 of us on the team, and everyone on the team has been on TDY themselves, either as a dependent or a child or themselves. So they understand it. Two of our uh, two of our folks on the team were actually customers from the Department of State.
Oh, wow.
They had their yeah, Department of State sends back, and sorry if I'm just diatribing here, but the Department of State sends back pregnant spouses from overseas for 90 days to have their baby in the United States.
Hmm.
So the spouse gets TDY, her children get a fractional TDY, and when the baby arrives, the baby gets TDY too. So they get quite a large reimbursement over these 90 days. And if they're in DC, that can be like $45,000 or so. And we find them the perfect place, and then we rent them the perfect furniture, because how else are they going to get a crib? And nobody wants a used crib. How else are they going to get a diaper genie and all of the other things that are really specific to a pregnancy? And how else can you account for a child coming halfway through? If your per diem goes up halfway through, if you were just two people and you got a 3-bedroom place, halfway through your per diem goes up. Well, the only legal way to do that is to have a 3-bedroom place, but lock one of those doors. And so you can't use that one until your per diem goes up.
Hmm.
Because okay, now your per diem goes up and I'm going to charge you more money for that. So I'm going to unlock that door to unlock more services, right? To match that, to justify that increase in per diem charge. Well, what we do is we're like, well, that's when your crib gets there. Perfect.
Yeah. And do can customers reach out to you directly, or is this kind of mostly through kind of like I guess your customer is the government, right? And then or no,
Our customer is the traveler,
the traveler.
is the traveler themselves. We do not do government contracting. We feel that's a race to the bottom. We contract with the individual traveler,
Okay.
and they could reach out to me, but I would probably not answer. I don't like I haven't seen any of the customers or furniture in a while. But the way to get in contact with us is our website.
Okay.
There's website forms, there's email, there's texting, calling, messaging. Most people come through a website form. Uh, we have an app or an online interface that's in dev, that will should be launched, you know, probably mid-April or so, and that's like an Airbnb-esque experience. Uh, Go on Airbnb, you are price conscious. Your value is, proximity, size of the thing, whatever, but it shows a daily dollar value. When you're on business travel, you're price agnostic. You say, I have up to this much money. What's the most value I can get out of that? So what our engine, the core finance of the fundamental of what we do is we normalize prices to someone's business travel entitlement, which in this case is TDY. And the only legal way to do that is to provide additional services above what the market supply of abodes, of furnished or unfurnished places is. So we augment it up to that rate by doing a supplemental furnishing budget.
Gotcha. Okay. Awesome. And so you're helping the person, the traveler,
Correct.
find both the lodging and the furniture, or is it just the
It's
furniture,
a
the whole
one-stop
thing?
shop.
One stop
One-stop
shop.
shop.
Gotcha.
One-stop shop. Now, some people are creative with this, right? Um, and they might just want to spend everything on a furnishing budget. And we know that when we're on TDY, we can't stay in our own place. Well, you can't use any of your TDY reimbursement to pay off your mortgage. You can't, or your utilities. You can't use that business travel for anything that you own. But if you happen to own a property where at your TDY location and it is not your tax home nor home of record, which some people do, or say you're staying with a friend who has an empty place, well, then they wouldn't need to spend any of their money on the abode and utilities, so they can reserve the entire thing for just furnishings. So there's options, but generally it's a one-stop shop.
Gotcha. Awesome, man. Well, congrats on all the traction you've gotten, and it's really cool how you've created a business out of a challenge that you had, right? And you
Right.
that a lot of people like you had, but it's you kind of designed the thing that you wish you had,
Right.
7 or 8 years ago. And
Yeah, that's
congrats.
when I was a lieutenant, was 7 years ago, right?
uh, I was rounding down, but then
Yeah, yeah.
and so what would you say? So we just kind of kicked off 2026. We're a couple of months in now. What are some of your biggest goals for TDY Rentals? I'd say, like Q1, Q2, so short-term goals, and then longer term goals. Where
Okay.
do you see this thing going like 3 to 5 years from now?
Yeah. So I guess the easy way to quantify that is numerically in revenue, right?
Okay.
And if I we had projections so last year we had about $1 million in revenue, most of it coming in the last half as we got better product market fit, understood what we were doing more, and we decided to start advertising at the end of January. We had built our Google Sheets machine interface to be able to build capacity. So we're like, oh, great, January is good. We had $146,000 in signed contracts in January.
Oh,
But we had
congrats.
so that was great, right? You're on track. That's a great way to start. Especially January tends to be a slow month for TDY. And so that was signed, but we had leads for more that were more in a longer sales cycle. Someone going on TDY, but not until like June or May or whatever it is. Or I'm going to have a baby, but it's not until August. So the advertising worked pretty well. And we figured we had about a $300 customer acquisition cost, even given that we just started advertising. Mostly we'd been word of mouth. So we had one glide path back in December and early January where we thought we would go from maybe 1 million in revenue to, wow, wouldn't it be cool to have 5 million in revenue? And me with my big visionary, I'm like, oh, we're gonna have way more than that. We're gonna top 10 million. We're gonna get there. We're gonna make it. We're gonna have, especially when we build the app, we're gonna be up there. Well, so in the first day of, well, like since last night, in the last 8 hours, $500,000 in signed contracts.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and there's about 600,000 more that are in the process and will probably be signed by Monday. And I'm down here in Brownsville, Texas, and I'm pitching another 2 units. So we might be up in $3 million of signed contracts by the end of February. So did
Hey,
we
that's pretty good.
10x? Yeah, did we did we 10x? Yeah, not
I know,
yet,
man. You
but
joined 10X Vets like 3 weeks ago
that's
and look to
exactly
see
it.
what happened. I mean,
That
this
is
is
exactly
really,
it.
these are, are
That's
amazing
exactly it.
results.
I think you said 10x, and well, okay, let's 10x. Fine. That's what we're supposed to do. So
Oh, man.
there's
Congrats, though.
goals and
That's
there's
really
yeah,
exciting.
thanks. Yeah, there's goals and there's I bet, right? There's goals and the goals would be, obviously drive valuation, drive shareholder price, all of that serve, but frankly, it's serve more customers because every one of them love it and they make testimonial videos. Could you imagine making a
Oh, wow.
testimonial
That's
video
that's
about
really
the,
cool about about your
yeah,
TDY
yeah.
rental and your rental furniture.
Yeah, could you imagine doing that? Like, oh, I love this Airbnb so much. I'm going to volunteer to make a testimonial. But they do because they want everybody else to know about it. So,
Well, that's amazing.
yeah, and they love it. And it seems too good to be true initially. And then they're there and it's happening. And they're like, we got to tell it. Want to serve as many as possible. We do think that we eventually could capture a majority of that $2.3 billion or annual spend, if not a sizable portion of it. But honestly, the goal would be to serve as many as possible, because we feel that like by serving them, we're in a little way serving the country still, right? It's our way
Yeah.
of being in the fight, even if we're not. Hopefully you get the best coffee maker, you got a better day at work.
Yeah, and how do you find the properties for the that people are renting, or how do you kind of
Right.
source that? Like, how do you connect the dots there? I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, that's we it's an innovative new approach, right? So, uh, furnished properties are accustomed to an on-demand approach thanks to the Airbnb methodology,
Hmm.
which permeates not just Airbnb but VRBO and that whole scope of them. So
Hmm.
those properties are readily available, and we
Okay.
don't necessarily need to use a platform to do that, though sometimes we do. And as once our app is built for those properties, the furnished ones, it's nobody, barely anyone just takes their Airbnb and lists it directly on Airbnb. Generally, you own 5 Airbnbs or so. You use an intermediary called a channel manager,
Okay.
which you have your properties, and that allows that property to be listed on. there's like a 50 different vacation rental sites out there. So it's put in there, and those channel managers plug in to all the vacation sites. So our goal would be once our app is up, then we can link into channel managers, and then you have that solves the supply problem for the furnished abodes.
Yeah.
And furnished abode, yeah, great. We're gonna get there. We're not there yet. Furnished abodes, those are best for people probably 10 months and under, or it depends on their reimbursement heuristic. Now, the challenge then is unfurnished properties, which generally have a much longer process of renting. And it's a bit antiquated, I'd say. Your process is generally like, oh, I found the property on Zillow. I contact the property manager, I interview with the property manager, I see the place. There's a long process in there, which we've created an expedited process for, which essentially is a kind of like a user agreement with an unfurnished property. So we've been in the world of, hey, tell us what you want, we go find it. Now we've just switched over to the world of let's get as many property managers to sign up for the platform as possible,
Hmm.
because generally a property manager has a deck, maybe 100 doors, whatever it might be. And they say, okay, yeah, I love the government worker. I love their great tenants. I love the thing. It's a mentality mindset change for them to say, okay, it's never been the way we've done it before, but you can fill my vacancy, do it great with a great tenant quickly. Sure. So we're building that,
Hmm.
and that's nobody really does that yet. So it's a little, it's there's learning curves there.
And I guess my last and most important question, kind of before we get to your contact information, is like, dude, what's like the weirdest thing that somebody's like ordered, or is there like, or the coolest thing? Do you have any kind of funny stories? Or
Well, I so um, we take our customer privacy very, very seriously.
we don't have to say any name,
Right.
no names
Right.
or there.
So yeah, so I just want to make that very, very clear, right? That all we personally, I don't like that a foreign-owned hotel named IHG, it has the contact information of every military person and where their troop movements are. And we're all I have a clearance, and so we on all of our receipts, on all of our invoices, we put the bare minimum that is required for reimbursement, right? And that often does not require where they're living or their address and their phone number, and that's important, right? Because that document can go all over the place. So we scrub that very tight. As with what is the furniture that's in there, that's not included on there. Your hotel doesn't list the number of plates and cups and sheets and everything else like that. It's not a requirement, and we don't do that. That said, we have we have a lot of things that we value their privacy and we will not talk about. But I can talk about some things that people have talked about in their
Yeah, like
testimonial
just something
videos,
fun, right? Like what
right?
what was like some crazy fun thing that
Yeah.
somebody
We had someone want a Japanese futon
oh,
from Japan. Not
wow.
like that was located here that we go out and buy. And we tracked it through customs all the way from there. It wasn't there when he showed up, but he's like, fine, it's cool. Like if they want special, everyone has a special request. They get their basic stuff and they get this, and they're like, can you get me this? And we're like, that's the bespoke garbage can you want? We will get you that.
These are
It,
like off menu items.
well, there's no menu.
Oh, there's no,
We,
they just, okay.
you can get whatever you want so long as it's a furnishing. I know the laws super well, and they say, well, can you get me a bicycle? I say, no, it's not a furnishing. How about a computer? I'm like, not a handheld or not a laptop, but a computer. Yes, because a computer is necessary for your business and or for your job, and you would find a computer workstation in a hotel. So sure,
Yeah.
computer,
And then you get it for
absolutely.
25% of the cost when you
At the end of it, right? Yeah, at the end of it. So
All right.
I'd say the Japanese futon from Japan was pretty cool. We had someone want very specific artwork from UK, and that had to be tracked through customs.
Ooh.
Um, and you'd think, well, how does that help them? Man, if every day they come home and they look at that thing, or they on their bed or on that futon or using their gym, man, they're happy. Their work-life balance just skyrocketed. They look forward to being on TDY, which is not what you normally do. Nobody looks forward to staying in a hotel. But it amps up and amps up retention. It amps up their enjoyment and makes them a better worker. So and there's other things, but I can't tell you what some of the other things are out of respect for the customers. But those are the most entertaining ones, I'd say.
Well, thanks to you for sharing that. That was a lot of fun, man. And congrats on all the progress you've gotten. Again, it was great meeting you in person. Gosh, last week feels like a month ago, but time it was
Yeah,
it was a bit of a whirlwind, and it was great to meet you in person. And thank you for being a part of 10X Vets, and
yeah.
thank you for being on the podcast today. And what's the best way for people to actually, before we get to how to reach out to you, how can
Okay.
we help you? And then we'd
How
love to
can we
know
help?
learn
Okay.
about what's your website
Right.
and how to get hold of you.
Okay. How to help, right? Um, I guess first off, understand the complexities of TDY and know that they're not what you thought that they might be. Everybody thinks, oh, I got this. But I think if you listen to this podcast, you got a better understanding of it and how our service members are being taken advantage of. And have that in your brain about future policy. And if you have influence on policy realm, great. Um, how can you help me? Spread the word, right? Ask questions. Tell people about us. We've been word of mouth all the way for the first several years. So word of mouth to get more customers is fantastic. If you know, particularly if you know units mobilizing domestically, I know of units that are living, the entire unit is living in hotels and
Hmm.
in one hotel, and you're like, I can, I can help, right? So if you know folks on TDY, whether it, whatever the scenario might be, or if you know of, graduating cohorts of cadets, they're mostly going on TDY. That would be good way. I'd love to eventually, when the app is up, I think in May, June, it's time to say, hey, graduating cadets, there's a better way to TDY. Let me hook you up for your first, like that, like someone that we had done before. And if you're on the investor side, we do have a $1 million safe note available. I will say that it is filling up rapidly because of the demand from all of the Coast Guard folks down here. Um, yeah, it's and I think we'll close on that probably in a few weeks, maybe. And by with the 10xing per month, I think we'll be in a different place if you contact us in May for investment. But if you want to be in and move fast, we can send you all the financials. We have everything loaded and prepped to go. So I think those would really be it. Like contacts in government that can help write policy or maneuver policy in the right way. Referrals, fantastic. And money. And then finally would be, hey, we're hiring more and more people, right? I just this morning I was like, yes, hire this person, hire this person. So if you know of quality people that like me are passionate about furniture, right? I didn't know anything about furniture. I still kind of don't. But have a passion for, helping, it's a startup and they want to, and it's a little chaotic, but want to grow and work their work their tail off with being being a good group of people with high values and similar mission set, mission focus, then yeah, like send them our way too.
Awesome, Steve. And what's the best way for folks to reach out and get in touch with you?
To get in touch with me personally, Steve at TDY Rentals. That's easy. But customers, they would go through like the website generally. Referrals would go through there. Um, yeah, that's the way to do it. Steve at TDY Rentals, and then I'll email you, and you have my cell phone, and we can text or whatever you need to do.
Awesome. And we'll post a link to your website as well and
Perfect.
LinkedIn profile in the show notes. So for people that want to connect with you there. And Steve, congrats again, man, on all the progress and the traction. And here's to an awesome 2026.
Yeah, yeah, great. Thank you so much for having me on here. Thank you all for listening, and I look forward to seeing you again soon, man.